The Chicago Bears are sitting at the 10th pick in the 2025 National Football League draft, and speculation is heating up. Everyone has an opinion on what the team should do. Some want a dominant offensive lineman to protect Caleb Williams, others want a game-changing defensive force. But a recent mock draft from Brendan Donahue of Sharp Football Analysis has thrown a curveball into the conversation. His prediction? The Bears will select Texas A&M defensive end Shemar Stewart. Now, at first glance, that pick makes sense if you are only looking at athleticism. Shemar Stewart is not just a good athlete, he is an elite physical specimen. At 6 feet 5 inches and 267 pounds, he ran a blistering 4.59 second 40-yard dash at the National Football League Combine. That was fourth among all edge rushers. He also posted a 40-inch vertical leap and a 10'11" broad jump, ranking near the top of his class in those categories as well. When you put all that together, you get a player with a relative athletic score that ranks third among 1,802 edge rushers since 1987. That is a staggering number. The Bears need a defensive playmaker, and on paper, Stewart looks like a generational athlete. But does that translate to dominance on the field? This is where things get tricky. Football is not just about testing numbers. It is about production. It is about making plays when it matters most. When you look at Shemar Stewart's college statistics, there is reason for concern. In 3 full seasons at Texas A&M, he managed only 4.5 sacks and 12 tackles for loss. That is not the type of production you usually see from a player projected to go in the top 10. He played in 37 games, but had just 65 total tackles and 30 solo tackles. For a player with his athletic profile, those numbers are underwhelming. The Bears need impact players, and while Stewart may have elite athletic traits, his production does not scream top 10 pick. There are different ways to look at this. Some scouts believe Stewart was simply a victim of the scheme he played in. He was not always asked to be the primary pass rusher. Instead, he was creating opportunities for teammates. That makes sense when you consider that fellow Texas A&M edge rusher Nick Scorton put up much better sack numbers. If Stewart had been in a different system, perhaps his stats would have been better. But others see his lack of production as a major red flag. If he was as dominant as his physical traits suggest, he should have been taking over games. Instead, his impact was often subtle, and that is not what teams expect from a top 10 pick. Even Shemar Stewart himself acknowledges that he has room to improve. When speaking at the National Football League Combine, he admitted that he was not a sack-chasing warrior. He explained that he focused on being the best player for his team rather than chasing stats. That is an admirable mindset, but it does not change the fact that the Bears need playmakers. If they are spending a top 10 pick on a defensive player, they need someone who can disrupt offenses immediately, not a long-term project. Stewart compared his game to Hall of Fame pass rusher Julius Peppers. He said their body types and athletic ability were similar. That is a bold comparison, but it also shows his confidence. If he can develop into anything close to what Julius Peppers was, this pick would be a home run. But that is a big if. This leads to the biggest question: do the Bears have time to develop a player like Stewart? This is not a rebuilding team anymore. The Bears are in a position to compete. They have their franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. They have star wide receivers in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. The offensive line is improving. The defense has solid pieces in place. This team is ready to take a big step forward. Would spending a top 10 pick on a player who might need time to develop be the right move? The Bears cannot afford to take a gamble and wait 3 years for Stewart to develop into a dominant pass rusher. They need immediate impact. There are plenty of other options available. Some analysts believe the Bears should draft an offensive tackle to protect Caleb Williams and build a dominant offensive line. Players like Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu could be franchise left tackles. Others think they should target an impact player at another defensive position, such as a defensive tackle or cornerback. Another name that has come up in some mock drafts is Boise State running back Ashton Jainty. With his explosiveness and versatility, he could add another dangerous weapon to the offense. The Bears could also consider trading back, collecting more draft capital, and addressing multiple needs instead of taking a risk on Stewart. The Bears have a critical decision to make. If they draft Shemar Stewart, they are betting on his long-term potential. They are hoping that his elite athletic traits will eventually translate into dominant play on the field. If they pass on him, he could end up being a star elsewhere, maybe even with a division rival. In fact, Stewart recently had a visit with the Green Bay Packers. If the Bears do not take him, he could be lining up against them twice a year for the next decade. The thought of Stewart reaching his full potential in a Packers uniform is a nightmare for Bears fans. This is the type of decision that can define a franchise. Get it right, and the Bears could have a future defensive superstar to pair with Montez Sweat. Get it wrong, and they could be looking back in regret for years to come. The pressure is on, and the debate will only get louder as the draft gets closer. Ryan Poles and the Bears front office cannot afford to make the wrong call. What do you think the Bears should do? Should they take a chance on Shemar Stewart and bet on his upside? Or should they go with a safer, more proven player? The clock is ticking, and the Chicago Bears have a massive decision to make.